They were 50 tons of predatory steel. They didn't just participate in the war, they dictated the terms of every battle they entered. Imagine being an Allied soldier in 1943. You're told your equipment is the best in the world. Then, from over a ridge in the distance, a boxy metallic silhouette appears. You fire your 75mm gun, a shell that should penetrate anything, and it simply bounces. That was the reality of Tiger Fever. From the dust of North Africa to the frozen ruins of Stalingrad, the German panzers were the most feared sight on the battlefield. But behind the legend of invincibility lay a darker reality of mechanical failure, logistical overreach, and the sheer impossibility of keeping these metal beasts alive. Were they masterpieces of engineering, or over-engineered nightmares that drained the Reich of its last resources? From the reliable Panzer IV workhorse to the terrifying apex predator Tiger, this is the deep-dive breakdown of the machines that defined the Blitzkrieg. This is the story of the Iron Giants, the Panzer IV. If the Tiger was the celebrity, the Panzer IV was the laborer. It was the only German tank to remain in continuous production from the first day of the invasion of Poland to the final collapse in Berlin. While the heavier tanks spent months in repair shops, the Panzer IV was at the front, holding the line. First, we have to look at its modular design. The Panzer IV was originally designed as an infantry support tank, meant to fire high-explosive shells at bunkers. It carried a short, stubby 75mm gun that looked almost harmless. But the German engineers did something brilliant. They built a chassis with room to grow. As the Soviet T-34 appeared with armor that laughed at small guns, the Panzer IV was upgunned. It grew the Long 75, the KWK-40. Suddenly, this reliable workhorse became a sniper, capable of punching through 100mm of armor from a kilometer away. Second, let's talk about ergonomics and vision. Inside a Soviet tank, the commander often had to act as the gunner, too. He was overworked and blind. The Panzer IV featured a 5-man crew. Every man had one job. The commander sat in a dedicated cupola with 360-degree vision. In the chaos of tank-on-tank combat, the side that sees first fires first. The Panzer IV's layout ensured the German crew almost always had the tactical advantage, even when their armor was technically thinner than the enemy's. Third, the evolution of defense. By 1943, the Panzer IV looked like a jagged metal monster. This was due to Schürzen, thin metal skirts hanging off the sides and turret. These weren't meant to stop heavy tank shells. They were designed to prematurely detonate hollow-charge anti-tank rifles and rockets. It was a low-tech solution to a high-tech problem, proving that the Panzer IV was the ultimate adaptive weapon. It was reliable, it was versatile, and it was the true reason the German Panzerwaffe lasted as long as it did. In 1941, the German army hit a wall. That wall was the Soviet T-34. The German High Command was so shocked by the Russian tank that they considered simply copying it. Instead, they created the Panther. While widely considered the best all-around tank of World War II, the Panther was a leap forward in armored philosophy, but it was a leap taken in total desperation. First, the sloped armor revolution. The Panther abandoned the vertical box shape of the Tiger and Panzer IV. By angling its front glacis plate at 55 degrees, it used the physics of geometry to win. A shell hitting that plate had to travel through significantly more metal than if the plate were flat. Furthermore, the angle encouraged ricochets. In its debut, Allied tankers watched in horror as their shells slid off the front of the Panther like pebbles off a roof. Second, the 75mm KWK-42. Don't let the caliber fool you. This wasn't the gun from the Panzer IV. This was a super high-velocity weapon. The barrel was nearly 16 feet long, or it fired a shell so fast that it traveled over 3,000 feet per second. This gave the Panther a flat trajectory. A Panther crew didn't have to guess the range as much as other tankers. They just pointed and deleted. It had more penetrating power than the famous Tiger's 88mm gun at long ranges. Third, the mechanical Achilles heel. The Panther was a forced design. It was rushed into production for the Battle of Kursk before it was ready. Because it weighed 45 tons, much more than originally planned, its final drive and transmission were under constant, agonizing stress. During the first days of combat, more Panthers were lost to engine fires and catastrophic gear failure than to Soviet cannons. It was a masterpiece on paper, but a nightmare for the mechanics who had to fix its interleaved road wheels, a system where you had to remove 5 wheels just to get to one broken one in the back. It was a high-maintenance diva in a world that needed a street fighter. Then, there is the legend. The Tiger 1. The Heavy Tank 8. This is the machine that defined the word heavy. When the Tiger appeared on the Leningrad front in late 1942, it didn't just join the war, it reset the clock. The heart of the Tiger was its gun, the 88mm KWK-36. This started its life as a flak anti-aircraft gun designed to swat bombers out of the sky at 20,000 feet. When mounted in a tank, it became the hand of God. It could destroy any Allied tank in existence from distances where the Allied crews couldn't even see the Tiger. Now this led to the psychological phenomenon known as Tiger phobia. Allied commanders had to issue orders forbidding their men from reporting Tiger sightings unless they were 100% sure, because the mere mention of a Tiger could cause an entire armored column to grind to a halt in fear. The Tiger was built like a safe. It ignored the sloped armor of the Panther in favor of raw, brute force thickness. With 100 millimeters of high-quality Krupp steel on the front, it was nearly invulnerable to the standard Allied 75mm and Soviet 76mm guns. At the Battle of Kursk, one particular Tiger commanded by Franz Staudegger engaged a group of 50 T-34s alone. He destroyed 22 of them in 2 hours because their shells simply could not get through his hide. The Tiger wasn't a tank. It was a mobile pillbox. But the Tiger was its own worst enemy. It was too heavy for most European bridges. It required a specialized rail system just to move it to the front. It consumed fuel at a rate of 5 gallons per mile, not miles per gallon, but gallons per mile. Germany only ever built 1,350 Tigers. In the same time, the Allies built over 50,000 Shermans. The Tiger was a tactical titan, a machine that could win any duel, but it was a strategic catastrophe. It was the ultimate expression of German engineering. Beautiful, lethal, and completely unsustainable in a war of attrition. The Iron Giants of the Reich were built for a quality over quantity gamble. The German philosophy was that one superior tank could hold off 10 inferior ones. And for a while, they were right. But war isn't played in a vacuum. A tank that is in the repair shop is worth 0 on the battlefield. A tank that runs out of fuel is just an expensive bunker. Technical brilliance gave the panzers the edge in the dirt, but industrial reality crushed them in the end. They remain the most studied, most feared, and most debated machines in the history of conflict, the heavy metal kings of a lost cause. But the Allies were watching. They were learning. And they were building something to strike back. Subscribe to witness the response. Part 2, The Industrial Swarm, featuring the Sherman and the T-34, is coming next. Who really won the War of the Gears? Find out in the next chapter of Steel Monsters.